Greetings and salutations, Geo nerds! So what's this beautiful shiny gold? In this case in a secret vault under London, but it's the gold we're looking at here. So what's this beautiful shiny stuff got to do with this horrible stuff used to kill millions and one of Brisbane's most historic railway stations on the south side? Hang around, we'll find out together. Well folks, today we're above the Eildon Street Reservoir over at Windsor. Yes, I said Eildon. I did read your comment. If I wanted to say Eildon, I would. We're going to whiz through the city and we're going to spit through here. Let's see if we can squeeze through. Oh yeah, we did. Of course, if every time I hit it, I just didn't record that one. There you go, past Mount Road. We're heading today down south. We're heading down into Logan, and where we're going is to look at the side of a gold mine. Right, really, very close to Brisbane, closer than even the Mount Nebo mines and the inaugural goldfields. And here we are down Logan Way, of course. We're looking at what was used to be called the Kingston gold mine. It's actually the Mount Taylor gold mine. This little bump of the hill, 200 metres above sea level, is called Mount Taylor. And this is the site, this big green area and that site where that building is. This is the site of the old Kingston gold mine. And we're going to look into the details of that because it wasn't a happy ending. Toxic waste, 20th century disease. So I pulled back, it's not very far from the city. Anyway, let's have a look at it. So I suppose we should start at the very beginning.
A very good place to start.
Obviously this site is an Aboriginal site and it's the Yugambeh people. By the way, I think that's a much better name for the Logan River than naming after Patrick Logan. Anyway, I digress. The early settlers there didn't have such a great time living in the usual accommodation, bark huts, and the town was originally surveyed very early. In the early 1800s, but it wasn't called any of this. That was its name there, and named after the local Aboriginal word for wind. These were a couple of the early settlers, the Kingstons, which of course got the suburb named after them, and they lived down this way. Beautiful looking place in those days. They'd scrubbed the country out a bit by then, and everything was moving on. But then they decided that someone walking up the Scrubby Creek was panning gold in the 1880s, and so they traced it up and the government did a survey and they found a gold deposit of ore on this hill. This is from 1945, as you can see, not much to see there, pretty straightforward because they're mainly mining underground. And then they decided to go open cut. You start to see the mullock heaps and they start to really dig the place up, and they introduced sodium cyanide. This is after that. This is in the 1970s. The place has just been left as a big mess. They decided to dump rubbish into it. There's all these people in the 1990s living there on top of this lovely big rubbish dump that's full of sodium cyanide. And this is what happened. They had to buy back 40 housing lots, demolish the houses, put a big cap on it, clay and all sorts of tricks, and that's what it looked like in 1994 when they were finished. And as you saw by the flying, it now sort of looks like that. That's pretty nice. So why was there gold here in the first place? We will talk more about the toxic waste. Gold, well, because this is narrowly Fernvale Shale, this purple area, and you'll see those two little marks. They're faults, unusual for this stuff, and they let geothermal fluids up into there and they deposited gold. Not a hugely rich deposit, but it certainly was gold and it was payable. Just thought I'd throw this in lighter, because we can. It doesn't tell you much because it's been completely reformed, but it's a hill, barely hill. And here's the topo. 200 metres is a mountain, really. Yeah, maybe at Kingston it is. So let's have a look at the mining site itself. So this is in the 1930s, just, a big pile of jumble. Miners are grubs, as they always were. You see settling ponds there and whatever. In the early days, this place was running on amalgam tables, which is mercury. And of course, after the war, they installed cyanide leaching, which is far more efficient. There's nearly all the gold out and all the cyanide out, obviously. These are some of the old adits that went into the ground. The mine was not particularly complicated, a couple of shafts, a few adits running around the place. These were exposed when the open cut into them later on. These were underground, you would never have seen them. You can see the shafts there, and the adits. They had to move a lot of rock, like all gold miners. They don't just bend down and pick it up off the ground. Some of the shots of the open cut. This is from the 1930s, so even though it's in colour, I've colorised it. This is this is later, this is in the 1950s. Again, the place is pretty much abandoned. In its final days, they used to let miners come in and mine, and they'd just pay the guys to access. They didn't keep the gold, so it was becoming a bit of a, it was a mess. This is the tailings pit. This is sludge left over, good stuff. And this is the open cut when it filled up with groundwater. Now, the chemical they use to extract the gold is called sodium cyanide. Nasty stuff in itself, but if it contacts anything that's slightly acidic, it gives off hydrogen cyanide, which is this stuff. This is extremely nasty. You might know it from World War II. It was used to execute millions of people. Mount Taylor Environmental Park, not really. So the government went up there and they did this big job. They pulled down all these houses, they bought them back, they recapped it all, and they put clay on it and they treated it. Well, I did notice that's a pretty new looking house there. That's the hole where all the stuff was. So Kingston, here's the clue. It was never at Kingston. That is in Slacks Creek. Kingston's the other side of the road. But anyway, you get that sometimes. This is what they were looking for. They were digging out gold. Probably not this much, or definitely not this much. This is in, again, vaults under London. And you saw that shot at the beginning, so that's where it comes. But here's the T-Rox question to you. If you take all the gold they dug out of the ground, did the government pay more buying back the houses and cleaning their mess up than we ever made out of the gold? Don't know. I'll put it to you. Anyway, that's it for this week. There'll be a few more. There's a bit of more research I uncovered doing this, but it doesn't really fit into the gold mine theme, so I'll do separate videos on it. You know what I'm going to say? First of all, thanks for subscribing, all you new subscribers. I see you, and I really appreciate it. Keep rocking. T-Rox out.